What if all of the choices and decisions that were made were with all these different voices in life?
When we bring our assumptions to the table, we really listen to learn and we have compassion, that's when things can really grow and expand.
Who knows what one voice can do that can shift everything?
We live in a world filled with extraordinary, beautiful differences that make each one of us unique. From able-bodied, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, to race and gender identity. Being transracially adopted into a white family, to discovering my royal lineage in Sierra Leone, West Africa, I understand when we want to create a culture in the workplace and community of communication, allyship, and belonging, we must approach the intersection of differences with the philosophy, we are better together.
Oh, we love this next story. It isn't every day you find out you're a princess.
That fairy tale actually happened in real life. Princess Sarah Culberson.
Actual African royalty.
She's a real African princess. Please welcome to the show.
Welcome to the Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast, starring Q the Boss.
Welcome back to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. I am with a special guest. I'm excited. We've been trying to set this up for a couple weeks. So I've been really excited. I'm here with Princess Sarah. Listen, this is a very special woman, guys. So you're going to enjoy this interview. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to rewind this and rewind this and rewind this. It's going to be special. So let's just get started. Where did the name come from? Princess Sarah. I see the queen. I see it all already. But where did you get this name from?
So it's interesting because it was a name that I was given as a child, Sarah.
Okay.
But I was adopted and grew up in an all-white family in West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yes.
That's very Caucasian.
Yes.
Very Caucasian.
And my birth father's from Sierra Leone, West Africa. My birth mother was a white American.
Wow.
They had me realize I was a surprise.
Okay.
My father had gone back to school, didn't know about me. Then when he found out, my birth mother said, you stay in school, I'll take care of her. So she kept me for 9 months.
Yes.
And then afterwards she said, this is a little hard. I think we should give her to a family
who
can really give her everything she needs. So I was placed I was in a foster family for 3 months, and then I was adopted into an all-white family in West Virginia.
How was it like being adopted? I'm just curious. How was that?
You know what? I grew up in an amazing family.
Wow.
And I know it doesn't always go like that, but I was adopted 3 days after my first birthday.
Wow.
And I have 2 older sisters, Lynn and Laura, blonde hair, green eyes, dark hair, glasses. And I just had a great time. But I had parents who were interested in culture and interested in the world.
Wow.
So that made a huge difference. And they were both educators.
Wow.
And my dad taught at the medical school, and we got to travel and live in other countries.
Yes.
So I got to learn about the world as a child.
These are the families that I think actually should be adopting.
Yeah.
Right? Because that sounds like an amazing testimony.
Yes.
I love to hear success stories. Because as you know, we hear so many negative things, especially about foster care and adoption. My son had a small stint, and I had to take custody of him from his mom. I didn't know. So I had to. So I understand it a little bit. And it's rough. It's traumatizing to a lot of children.
Yes.
But I'm just happy to see. So you say you traveled the world. You traveled a lot of places.
Well, we lived in New Zealand when I was 2.
It's getting more interesting by the second, right?
Yeah, when I was 2. And then when I was 14, we lived in England, in Cambridge, England, for only 3-4 months.
So she don't have stamps on her passport. She actually has locations on her passport, right? So my question is, where, as far as living, what was your best experience as far as where you lived at? Your best experience.
You know what? New Zealand, I was 2, so I don't remember very much.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But I did love England, and I love the Lake District, and I love Scotland, love France. But I love to try. I try to get out of the country as much as I can, just even if it's for a little bit, to see the world.
Yes.
Because our microcosm of America is not what the world is, and it's nice to get out.
Yes.
And I also get that not everybody can go. It's expensive. It's this and that. But even finding a cheap ticket if it's possible.
So where did the musical skills come from?
Musical skills?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Where'd it come from?
My musical background?
Yes.
How did you know I'm interested in music?
Listen.
You got a little birdie telling you something.
Listen. We're not gonna sit with someone and don't do our homework on them.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, I studied classical theater. And
See, now it's coming out.
I
Okay.
studied dance.
Okay.
I studied classical music, classical singing.
Yes.
And so I got my bachelor's and master's degree in classical theater and did TV and film for a period of time and lots of theater. I love Shakespeare. I'm a weirdo.
No, I think I'm weird.
Shakespeare too?
Yes. I think I'm into art.
Amazing.
I'm into art extremely, but I was always the big guy that was a jock.
Yeah,
so I never liked to show it. But I was like, I'm the guy you can take to the museum, and I would go crazy. Like literally, I just bought a new piece called, Dali, Salvador Dali.
Yes.
I just bought a new Dali. I'm excited about art extremely. Yes,
So
because
wonderful.
it was escape for me. It was like my reality wasn't so great, but in art, you can literally make your mind go to the places, especially with reading, and it takes your mind away.
So how did you get into art?
One of my art teachers, her name was Miss Oberlander. She actually invited me to come into her art class often, and I would go after school, and I would literally I love it here, and you can create, and it was just like free. And I think art is one of the most, and music also is one of the most vital things for children and people to learn, because it actually gives you a story to where you can go and also where we've been, right? And that's what I love about art, music. But what do you love so much about music? She says Shakespeare, guys. It got me good with goosebumps a little bit, right? Because I don't feel like I'm the only weird one now.
No, Shakespeare, I love it. I would play Miranda in Shakespeare's The Tempest. You know the actress Tessa Thompson?
Of course I do.
Right. She would play Miranda on one night. I would play Miranda the next night. So we both flip-flop roles, and it was just awesome. And then I stopped acting, and she went through the roof because I got more interested in learning about my birth family and the tribe in Sierra Leone, and I kind of paused on Hollywood for a moment. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
So right now, ideally, what would be the perfect story for you? Like, as far as from this point on, what would be the perfect story?
What do you mean the perfect story?
The perfect story.
Well, how I'd like life to look?
Yes, of course. We all have our dreams. So today we're going to talk about your dreams. I think when words have confirmation and affirmation, I think speaking it makes it come to life. Sometimes people say, hold it back. Listen, I love it. I love it. Yes. So let's hear this.
Okay, so I know this sounds cliche, but I really want peace and love in the world. I want us to get to know each other better and understand each other and understand each other's similarities and differences and embrace that and go, oh, I don't operate that way, but you do, and that's okay.
I love that.
And that's your religion, and that's okay, and that's your culture, and that's okay, and that's your language, and that's why you do things like that. And this is how I do them, and just accepting each other.
Wow.
What would the world look like? I'm interested in that.
I'm envisioning it.
Right?
Right? But I don't think it's cliche.
Okay.
I think anyone that's happy tends to want more others to be happy. And I genuinely feel that. I think that's amazing. Because I think when you become less self and more conscious of others, I think that's when you can change the world better.
That didn't come from nowhere. My mom growing up would always say to me, like, if there was something going on, another kid was being really mean. My mom would say, well, I wonder what's going on with them.
Okay.
To have them react that way.
Wow.
Rather than going, oh, that kid's bad, or it's like, wow, what's going on over there?
That's a very positive look.
Yes. And she
very
was
positive.
An educator. She was a teacher. So she thought
makes
outside
sense.
the box.
It makes sense.
That made me start to think about people, and instead of judging everyone, and I do it, I still do it. I catch myself, I'm like, stop.
Yes.
But let's figure out what's going on over there. So actually, I'm working on a podcast called Modern Royalty.
I love that. I love that.
Interview royalty from around the world, but not just like, oh, we just want to know what you're doing, but what's your culture like? What's happening in your country? What does it look like? What are your religious celebrations? What are some challenges? What are the triumphs?
Yes.
And how can we learn from each other? Oh, I have that same thing. I went through that. Oh, you do that in Croatia. You do that in Hawaii. You do that. And it's like, it's interesting that there's royalty all over the world.
I agree.
And we are descendants from royalty. We are taught in our history books that we're descendants from slaves. Yes. But we're actually, our genesis is from Africa.
Of course.
Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers who were brought to different places around
Yes.
us enslaved, but that's not where we started. So I'm interested in shifting that narrative
Yes.
that empowers us as people and empowers children to know how wonderful we are.
I'm getting goosebumps. Guys, look, that's amazing when you can talk to someone who cultured. And I love it. And the best part about it is you went to go see who you are, where you come from. To know that says a lot. I remember growing up, I always wondered about myself. I didn't grow up with my father. So I always wondered. I used to create stories about the guy. And I'm like, people would ask questions you didn't know answers to. And you
make
would,
it up.
yes. And by the time you realize, I'm like, I'm starting to believe these things, right? And I'm like, but one thing I love to say is exposure leads to expansion. And I think if more people are exposed, their minds will expand. I think a lot of people aren't exposed. The fact that you were so exposed to so much different experiences, living in different cultures, having a different background, but also being with an all white family and then embracing you, I think, and then being educated and understanding that, we have to, teach her and show her more about life. I think the best thing you said is when your mom, she was basically telling you that, looking not from the outside, but from the inside. How do you follow those same standards in life? How do you apply the things you learned from your parents?
One of the ways I apply it is I'm a speaker. So I speak a lot in corporate America,
Yes.
at universities,
Yes.
on leadership,
Yes.
empowerment, and
Yes.
diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I talk about using that as an example. People in the room will say, because sometimes we make judgments, like we'll say, okay, is everyone in agreement? Raise your hand if you are.
Of course.
Even if you're not. And some people, that's hard for them to raise their hand. It doesn't mean that they agree, but they just don't want to say something in the moment.
Agreed.
So learning how different people respond is so important.
Yes.
And one of the other things I've learned is a woman told me this that I met in the airport.
Okay.
She's also a speaker, and she said, don't judge others by your own gifts. Right? That's powerful.
I agree 100%.
Don't judge others by your own gifts. We sometimes have these expectations of people, and we want them to show up. Well, I show up like this, or I'm like this. It's like, well, that's great. You have a dynamic personality.
Yes.
And there are other people who have so much to share.
Yes.
There are other people who have so much to share too, but they might not be dynamic. They might be shy. They might be
Yes.
introverted.
Yes.
And we can't expect them to be who we are.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
I think that's one of the things that happens in the world. We expect others to be like us, and if they're not, we make them wrong.
Agreed.
Rather than embracing who they are.
Agreed. It's funny because I'm a God-fearing man.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, it says, love does not impose its own will. Impose meaning force. So I think genuine love comes from accepting,
Yes.
right? And if it just don't fit in my life at this moment, then I'll move on. But we can still be cool and cordial and friends, but it just didn't fit. So, I've learned that genuine love is respecting someone more for who they are, opposed to who I want you to be. And that's what I'm getting from you, right? And I'm actually feeling that it's more about learning to love someone for who they are, opposed to what I want and what I see in you. One of my videos went viral, and I talked about there's healthy ways of pulling greatness out of people, right? But challenging them healthy, not forcing a person to go get a PhD when they don't want that, right? But allowing them to be their better selves. Like if you can do 5 push-ups, you got that 6 in you, right? But I know you can do it. But doing it in a way where it's because I want it, because I want you to want it, right? And you can make people believe greatness in themselves. And that's what I love as a speaker. I'm pretty sure you've seen or heard testimonies, and you're like, wow. And people are gonna reach back to you like, you changed something in my life. I'm gonna say this. The one thing I always tell people, I never wanted to be the movie that people said they seen. I've always wanted to be the movie that people said that movie changed my life.
Yes.
That's how I always thought about life. So what is something you know for a fact that you're doing every day or constantly to try to impact people's lives?
Our work in Sierra Leone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where my birth family is from.
Wow.
So I went to Sierra Leone to meet my birth family in
Yes.
the tribe. Was
Wow.
welcomed by hundreds of people singing and dancing.
I'm jealous. I'm being honest, I'm jealous.
You can come.
Look, I'm going. It's not coming, I'm going. Listen, I'm out, I'm there. That's amazing.
life-altering. My father gave me this beautiful green African dress, and when I arrived in the village, all the women came forward wearing the same green dress that I had been given that morning, and they were singing in Mende, my family's language. We're preparing for Sarah. Wow. And I literally was pinching myself. I thought, is this real? Is this really happening?
Wow.
And it was this whole new world. Now that's another leap into culture. Even though I traveled a lot as a kid, this was a whole nother world
experience
to be in West Africa with blood relatives that I've never met, meeting my father. Now this is interesting. As a God-fearing man, my father, Joseph, wife, Mary, and just some biblical things going on
Joseph and Mary.
Joseph and Mary, and getting to meet the tribe and just getting to meet everyone. I was like, this is incredible.
Wow.
It was life-altering. So we saw what happened after an 11-year civil war.
Yes.
And we started our nonprofit, Sierra Leone Rising, doing work in public health, education, technology, and female empowerment. So we've been doing that over the past about 17 years.
Wow.
And my brother runs a team on the ground. He's a lawyer in Sierra Leone. We have our nonprofit here. We talk back and forth. So when you ask the question with the long answer that I gave you.
But it's a great answer.
But about what am I doing daily? My commitment and our commitment is to have clean drinking water in the entire country of Sierra Leone.
Wow.
It's around 8 million people. And a lot of people don't have access to clean drinking water, things that we take for granted. And I've always taken for granted. And we're working on sanitary pads for girls because girls drop out of school globally due to their menstrual cycle.
Wow.
Because they don't have access, they get embarrassed and stay home, and then they drop out.
I would have never knew that.
Yeah, it's
I would have never knew that.
Huge issue. And you know, that's not just in Sierra Leone. It happens in India. It happens all over. It's even happened in the United States, in West Virginia.
Wow.
They call it period poverty, not having access.
Wow.
And not having the money to go buy it. It's something extra. So working on that.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Raise my awareness. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's an amazing documentary called Period, End of Sentence. The tagline is, a period should end a sentence, not a girl's education.
Wow.
That's on Netflix and done by high school students.
Wow.
That won an Academy Award.
I love it though.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. This is a woman, this woman wears so many hats, right? I don't know. It's like, I'm loving the conversation. And I'm going to be honest, genuinely, it's amazing. Hearing your story, it sounds like a book.
Oh, I wrote a book.
I had to. I knew it had to be something there.
I didn't write it by myself. Nothing happens by myself.
Okay.
I wrote it with an incredible writing partner. She's a true writer.
What is the book title?
It's called A Princess Found. A Princess Found.
A Princess Found.
It's in Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and we're turning it into a movie. We sold the rights to Disney, and we're working on turning it into a film, which we're very, very excited about.
This is an honor, guys. This is amazing. Listen.
Journey.
Yeah. But look, see, the one thing I love about this story the most, your start, right, is not a reflection of where you're going and where you've been. You know, because most people use that as a moment of anger, resentment, you know, but to go back and to embrace your father.
I had to get over that.
Okay.
I didn't, to go backwards, I was like, well, where were you? You met a white woman in the 70s and 80s, you're having a kid.
Yes.
Like, where are you?
Yes.
Do you care? I didn't realize I was angry until I did this program called Landmark Worldwide.
Wow.
And when I was sitting in the class, I realized I was angry. And then I realized, well, what was it like to be an African man in West Virginia during that time, meeting a white woman, having a child? Maybe I should give that guy a break.
Yes.
And the moment I did that, it was like this yellow brick road opened up, like a whole new world opened up. And my anger was keeping me from having a whole nother life. I didn't realize that.
Wow.
And I didn't realize sometimes we feel like we have to be angry to prove to somebody that you hurt us. Or
of course.
We're hurting ourselves.
Agreed.
And when we let it go, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got family in Sierra Leone. I took my parents who adopted me from West Virginia to West Africa to meet my family there.
From West Virginia to West Africa.
West Virginia to West Africa. West side.
I love it.
And everyone came together and we all started working together.
Yes.
And my parents have helped raise money for our work in Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Everyone. It's beautiful.
Wow.
And I had to get out of the way. I had to let go of my anger.
Wow.
And see what could be possible. And it took something, but it's been incredible. And it's been a journey. It has its ups and downs.
But you know, the forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the true essence of God-fearing or God-loving. You know, being able to forgive. Most people can't do that. You know, it took me years to forgive. But also, as you said, my dad was young. So it was like, I'm judging basically a child. You know, and I'm judging a child. You know, and I'm like, you don't even know the impact.
Like when you were 19 or 20 or however old, it's like, oh my gosh, what would I have been doing?
Off the chain.
Right.
Off the chain.
Right?
Yes. But here's my question. I have a two-part question.
Okay.
One is, what do you think is the importance of education?
Yes.
And secondly, what do you think is the importance of traveling?
Woo! I think both of them are wrapped up in one.
Yes.
Because traveling is education.
Yes.
And that's why I think watching even travel shows, because sometimes not every person is going to have, there's privilege in getting the opportunity to travel. I'm very clear about that.
Yes.
And educating ourselves doesn't always happen in books. It can.
Yes.
But we educate ourselves from people.
Yes.
From our surroundings,
Yes.
from nature, from animals. They are our teachers. Children.
Yes.
Children are some of the best teachers in the world.
Yes, they are.
Because their perspective is extraordinary and their innocence is so powerful.
I agree 100%. 100%.
And I think travel is the access to see what's possible.
Wow.
And see our own limitations. I realized my own limitations. And when I went to, even living in England, and spending time in Sierra Leone, I was just really aware of something bigger than me.
Wow.
The world, and I get to be a little part of this giant world. And what am I going to do in this lifetime with the time that I have?
Wow. Wow.
That's how I look at it.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just blown away. It's because I'm envisioning these places. I've never been to Africa. I would love to.
Oh.
Right? Because I know that's my origin. And I've always wanted to experience Africa. I know before I die, I have to experience it.
Yeah.
You know, what would you say is the most impactful outside of the moment when they received you? I love the song that you said they were singing. That's amazing. But what would you say is the most impactful moment there that you've seen? It was like, what? Yes.
You know, I always think of what's the first thing that comes to my head. And the first thing that came to my head is when I took some high school students to Sierra Leone.
Wow.
And we went to a local hospital.
Wow.
And I saw the medical care there.
Horrible.
I mean, the homeless are doing better here.
Wow.
And I just went, okay, I can't do all this. I'm one person. It takes a village. And we started working in public health and starting to see what people need and start working together. So that's my commitment in this lifetime, to help Sierra Leone get back to where it was before the war, and for people to have the same access, water, medical care.
Basic necessities.
Basic necessities.
Wow. Would you would say that based on your traveling, you see that more people take it for granted that things they have here in America?
Well, and I think it depends where you travel.
Okay.
Because if you go to Europe, it's
Same
kind of
thing.
like, I mean, Europe is, depending where you go in Europe, certain countries are very wealthy.
Okay.
And it's also when you go to developing countries.
Yes.
And countries that have maybe been through war, countries that have struggled, I feel like that's also such an important place to learn.
Yes.
And so I took high school students there to Sierra Leone. Their schooling costs, high school, it's about $35,000 a year at this high school.
Wow.
And this girl that I took, amazing young woman, Catherine, she said, we break our iPhones at parties to get the new iPhone this, to get the new iPhone that. She said, in Sierra Leone, you can have an empty water bottle, although mine's not empty, like this, and children get excited. They can take it to the pump to fill it up. It becomes a toy.
Wow.
She said, they're just happy with simple things. She said, we have all this stuff and it's never enough.
Wow.
She said, what's going on with us?
Wow.
And she got really choked up.
Wow.
So I think there's something to be said. And we, like I said, we learn from everyone. And sometimes we think having all these things, these tangible things are what are going to make us happy, or say that we've made it, or show our friends, hey, look at me. And it's like, doesn't mean you're happy.
Yes. You know, I meet a lot of people. And they usually say to me all the time, they're like, you know what's weird? And I'm like, what? They're like, you don't act the way I would think you would act. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And they'd be like, Q, you're very modest. I'm like, no, I'm very grateful. And I think that's where the humility steps in. For me, is like, when you look at what you've accomplished, there is no accomplishment without or no accomplishments without God having access to it or allowing access to it. So everything that's going on in our lives, there has to be a driving force.
We're being guided.
Yes. So like, I'm like, listen, you went to Sierra Leone, and you were able to bring a bunch of students back there. Come on. That was probably a vision in your mind at first, and it actually became a reality.
And then I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh.
See?
Yeah, and then it happened and it was wonderful.
You see? But then God protected you guys.
Yep.
You see what I'm trying to say?
And one student started to help that young woman.
Yes.
Started a computer center in the north part of Sierra Leone.
Wow.
They were talking about it in the White House because this young girl had this life-altering experience there.
Wow.
Another student is studying civil rights law because she's interested in that.
Yes.
So it's just so interesting what came from that experience with high school students traveling to the world in a different way.
I watched the interview with Akon.
Yes.
And he excuse me, he spoke on it being so dark and when people were depressed. And the violence is usually up when people are depressed, right? That's why Alaska has a high violence rate because of So when he said just having light, how people it would change their life. It makes me look at stuff like, why complain? Like, I have lights. I think I've had, besides when I was younger, we've always had lights. It's things that we take for granted, right? What keeps you grounded where you don't take things for granted?
Yeah. Wow. Exactly what you're saying.
Wow.
When I go to Sierra Leone and we have a solar lantern program where you can give lights.
Yes.
And we have, sometimes there's running water, sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's not.
Wow.
Sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's not in certain areas. I mean, and that is so grounding. That when I first went to Sierra Leone back in 2003, I went, if I'm having a bad day, what?
Yes.
What is this about? Oh, granted, we all have bad days and we're allowed to have them. It's not like to negate it.
Of course.
But to also get it, move through it, and remember what you're up to.
I agree.
Me, finding my family was finding my purpose.
Wow.
Which makes me get up in the morning, which makes me be bigger than I know myself to be. Makes me step out and get scared to try on these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because that was my next question.
Yes.
When did you know, what is your purpose?
Yes.
And when did you know you found your purpose? You just, I had to ask that question. I love when people find their purpose.
Yes.
Because it gives you more value to self. Yes. And, and when you love what you do, it's never work, right? So now, looking back, as far as how's the education system in Sierra Leone? How's the education system comparable to America?
You know what? They have a British education system because the British colonized in Sierra Leone. And so I think it works for some people, but we all are different kinds of learners. Mm-hmm. So we have different systems now to help people who have different ways of learning. And I feel like the system doesn't really support that fully.
Wow.
But they do have strong education if you get an opportunity to go. But in the rural areas, you might be like a little one-room schoolhouse and kids are sitting on the floor with a little.
Yes. You know something? I was talking to a superintendent the other day here in America in the school system. He was talking about how so many children in deprived communities are literally just pushed through. So technically, when you have a 12th grader, he said he's technically not really a 12th grader. Because when they created that, remember that No Child Left Behind? He said, that's real. And he started breaking it down to me, and I said, wow. And it bothers me because I want everyone to have a fair shot at life.
Yes.
Right? Some people are in a situation not because of choice. It's because of circumstance, right? So when you realize that circumstantially, that can be the person's look, but it's not technically who they are, right? And from a very very positive person you are. I love how I'm getting inspired sitting with you. I'm being honest with you because it tells me I need to go see the world more.
Yeah.
It tells me that, right?
Well, the world will love you and give
I appreciate it.
things back.
I appreciate it.
You'll be able to share with others with what you do.
I appreciate it. So where have you traveled? Where?
Where have I traveled? Sri Lanka, which is right at the south of India.
Sri Lanka, right? I only know that because of Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
Oh.
That's how I know Sri Lanka. I'm being fair to myself.
Did she go?
She said in one of her songs, she brought up Sri Lanka.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard it before, but it really resonated when she said it.
Yes.
Right? So music teaches.
Yes, it
You know?
does.
Sri Lanka.
Singapore,
Wow.
China,
Wow.
Belgium, Poland, France, Scotland, the Netherlands, Kenya, safaris, ridiculous,
So you see,
life-altering experience.
I was scared of looking at Africa because the way I was taught about Africa was lions just roam and wild animals everywhere and people live in huts. And then one day I see a picture of Nigeria. I'm like,
What?
this looks like Chicago.
I
or
know,
something.
exactly.
I was like, this ain't real. I was like, is this real?
Yes.
They're like, yeah. Then I see some of my people I know that's from the motherland. They show their houses. Ridiculous. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, so there is in Sierra Leone.
Yes.
You can go up in the mountains, and there are people who are extremely wealthy, and there's a lot of wealth with big, huge homes,
Wow.
and it's amazing. There's kind of a juxtaposition. You have like some extreme, even in India, you can have extreme poverty and extreme wealth.
Yes. I think that's everywhere, right?
Yes.
It's funny because one of the guys that moved here like 3 years ago, we walked around, maybe like 4 years ago, we walked around the city, and he couldn't believe there was homeless people in America. He just stood there, and I said, what's the matter? He said, homeless people here? Because they're taught like basically the streets are made of gold.
Yes.
And the trees, he's from Jamaica.
Oh.
So he said the street is made of gold and the trees have money on it in abundance, right? But this is what they're told. But I think it's travelers, they come there and show off a lot. So they think that every American is rich.
Yes.
But they don't understand that we work hard, therefore we're able to do, So I just have to ask this question. What was something before you went to Africa you thought and realized it wasn't true before you got there?
I thought that there would be more animals in Sierra Leone.
That's what I thought.
Not like lions. I did do some research, but
Yes.
really there are certain monkeys and so on, but there aren't all of the animals
Wow.
there. I think that was, I did research, so I knew there were some.
Yes.
I don't think I realized how happy people are
Wow.
and how much I could learn there.
Yes.
And be taught about the world and about being still.
Wow.
The power of stillness.
Wow.
Like the children, one day I was getting my hair braided by all my aunties, and children were just sitting around just watching me get my hair braided. I was like,
Wow.
isn't that boring? But they were just like,
It's cool.
they were present. I am on my phone so much. Like, I don't even know. I'm scrolling, I'm doing.
Yes.
It's like, what is it to just be present? And I'm talking to myself too, because I forget. And they teach me to be present.
Wow. Wow.
The beauty of that, the connection between human beings.
Wow.
When we pause and get present.
Wow. You know something? I've noticed even myself, I have to like put my phone away.
Me too.
I have to, because I think it takes up, you ever looked at your screen watch hours and time?
I'm afraid. But
I'm like,
yes.
holy crap, I really spend this much time on my phone?
I know. It's like, what else could I be doing in the world?
It's like a drug.
It is.
It calls you, right? I'm like, what? I was like, how do you get out of that, right? You have to detox from it, right? So let me ask you, if you could talk to someone on this FaceTime live right now that's listening to you, what would something you would want to tell? So a young woman or a young man who wants to be their better self, what would you say to them?
Surround yourself around people who help lift you. Because sometimes we get even family members who bring us down. As much as we love them, it's like, share your dreams with those people who will go, you can do that.
Yes.
You can do that. Being like this Black little girl in West Virginia, who you can go, oh, well, you have this privileged life. Yes, in a way, but it could have gone a lot of different ways.
Of course it could have.
And I had to navigate looking different than everyone else.
Yes.
And it was like, I decided to try to be this overachiever. And it's like, you know what? We're perfect just the way we are.
Wow.
We're enough.
Yes.
And I have to remind myself that too.
Yes.
And we don't have to be what we think other people want us to be. Just be who we want to be for ourselves.
Wow. So We got to get into this acting.
Okay.
What is the background? What did you do? I know, but I want them to know.
Okay, so I went to college and graduate school and studied theater, moved to LA, my dream to walk the red carpet.
That's brave.
Right?
That's brave. That's
Being
brave.
the actress
Yes.
always dreamt of that I saw on television. I also saw that actresses had voices.
Yes.
If people listen to musicians or
Yes.
actresses,
Yes.
what do they have to
Yes.
say?
Yes.
So I also saw it as a platform to tell stories that could make a difference.
Wow.
So I got very inspired by that.
Yes.
And then when I went to Sierra Leone to meet my birth family in the tribe, I came back, I'd go to auditions. And I remember this casting director said to me, "Have you not seen the show?"
Yes.
And I said, "Actually, I haven't." He said, "What are you doing? You're auditioning for something you haven't seen." I said, "Well,
Okay.
I'm doing work in Sierra Leone and this is what I'm focused on." And he was
Yes.
like, "Oh, well, that's important." He goes, "I want to introduce you to somebody." So he introduced me to somebody who became a partner in our work in Sierra Leone, which was so awesome.
Wow.
And I just became more interested in our work in Sierra Leone and what's happening in people's livelihood. And Hollywood just became a little more distant. I wasn't as passionate about it. Now, I still do work in Hollywood and I'm still connected.
Yes,
We're
yes,
working
yes,
on
yes.
a lot of great things.
That was a
But-
huge show.
Yeah.
Huge
it was
show.
a big show. And you know what? Young people still watch
Yes.
it. Like I'll speak to students and I'll say, "Oh, I was on the show." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
watched it," because they watch all the
Look, I'm like,
streaming.
wait.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was really fun.
Wow. Wow.
It was really
wow,
fun.
Wow. But to walk
Yeah.
away from Hollywood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
After doing such a big show,
Yeah.
that couldn't be easy. You're talking about lights, camera, action, right?
Right. Lights, camera, action.
Yeah.
Yes. However, I always thought like being in an audition and acting and being in front of people would be the
Yes.
biggest thing to lift me.
Yes.
And it wasn't anymore.
Wow. Wow.
It was working with children in Sierra Leone, taking high school students to Sierra Leone, connecting, working on coding. Kids are learning how to code from each other from different countries, getting laptop computers there. This was, to me,
More
the
important.
work.
More important.
Yeah, what I was
Wow.
about. That
More
was my
fulfilling.
purpose.
Let me say it right. More fulfilling.
More fulfilling,
Wow.
more exciting, more important for me
Wow.
at this point in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know something? I started off as a barber, and it's weird because I owned my shop forever. I've had it for about like 17 years, 16 years. And I'm gonna tell you something. I remember I lost everything. And when I lost everything, I thought the young people that came in the shop loved me for what I presented. I had all the cars, had all of these things, right, material. The one thing I've noticed, they still love me even when I lost everything. And it was like, I'm like, wait, so you don't care about the fact that I had like 6 cars at one time. Like I'm talking about nice cars. And I'm like, you don't care? No, we love you. It's the energy that you pour into people, right? That people receive back and the impact that you leave on people's lives. And I realized that that's more vital, more important, more just everything. Like it fascinates me. And some of the young guys, they're like, I didn't care about that. I care about you. And I think my barbershop was the first place in my life outside of the people that really love me, family, I felt real love.
You created a family and a community there.
That's crazy but true.
Yeah.
It's crazy but so true.
Yeah.
Wow. So to a young lady who's inspiring to be the next princess, or because we inspire people, let's just call it what it is, right? Somebody has to be inspired by somebody.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Matter of fact, I want to ask this question. If you can go to your younger self and talk to your younger self, what would you say to yourself?
You can do anything you want to do. You are powerful. You are amazing. And if you don't know how to do it, other people will show up to help you on your journey.
Wow.
Just keep sharing what you want to the people who lift you.
Wow.
People will show up.
Wow.
God will guide you. You're on your journey. And it doesn't always look the way you think it's going to go. Are you kidding? If somebody said to me when I was like 10, you're going to be a princess, I'd say, are you crazy?
Oh my God.
Right?
Your journey's your journey.
My journey's my journey.
Yes.
And I got prepared
Yes.
for this.
Yes.
Being an actress, knowing how to speak in
Yes.
front of groups of people,
Yes.
talking to people about raising funds for
Yes.
the work that we're
Yes.
doing. Thank
Yes.
goodness I had that background, right? But it's not for no reason. So
Yes.
we don't know why our path leads us where it leads us. but a lot of times it's leading us there for a reason.
Yes. You know, a lot of times when I talk to people, I don't really like to talk about their career. I want people to know you.
I love that.
And that's what I love. Come on, you're human.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's beautiful. You've accolades, right? Beautiful.
Yeah. But who are
go
you?
Read that. Yeah, who are you?
I feel that. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yes.
I'm getting energy from this interview.
Yes. I'm like, I want to show that you're a human.
Yeah.
Amazing woman, guys. Like, this is what I want people to see about you. So when they come on this episode and watch it, I want them to see that this person is real.
Yeah.
Real.
And you also bring that out in people.
I appreciate it.
That's who you are.
I appreciate it.
You offer the world.
I appreciate it.
It's so awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So let them know where they can keep up with you.
I am Princess SC. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
And before we leave, special message. You got to leave a message.
Special message.
Anything, whatever's on your mind, say it.
I just want to say, make sure to do this one. Make sure to do the things that fill your tank. Whatever that is, whether it's taking a walk, whether it's calling your grandmother, whether it's whatever it is, make sure you do the things that fill your tank to make yourself happy so you can go out in the world and do all of your dreams. And I'm sending you lots of love.
Listen, I can't say anything else behind that. That was amazing. But don't let that go over your head. So we have a special thing I heard that you're doing.
Yes.
And I'm going to let you explain it, though. Yeah. I know what it is, but guys, I'm excited about it myself.
Yeah.
So what is it?
So we're working with the oven. Ooh, yes. So we're working with the Ovid Group to create a Princess Sarah doll.
Wow.
They said we'd like to do this, and I got very excited. So, and it's not to go, wow, there's a doll of me. There's really a doll of representation. When I was a little girl, I wanted so badly to have a doll that looked like me, and granted, or a doll of color, period. And now there are a lot more dolls.
Of course.
This is actually a doll that represents little girls that they can look at it and go, this represents who they are, and have them see that they are from royalty, that they're from Africa.
How did that come about? How did that deal even come into fruition?
We just started. George, as you know, is amazing, and he,
the man, the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yes.
And we were talking about a doll for a long time, and he knows the folks at the Ovid Group, and we just started brainstorming and talking about it, and that's how it came to be. And I don't know if you're familiar at all with the doll test.
With the doll that she wanted, the black girl wanted the white doll?
Yes, the black doll and the white doll. And like at the age of 4, Black children were already seeing everything negative associated with the black doll, which looked like them. So I would like to associate all this positivity with this black doll and shift this conversation and have them have like a little thing that they get to read about this little doll, or their parents can read it to them and they get to go, ooh, look who I am.
I love that.
Because this is where it starts.
Yes.
That's the genesis. That's why we're interested in a doll.
Wow. Empowering her. Make her see herself.
Yeah.
Wow. You know something, we were talking about the little girl that had the wig, and they took the wig off her, she started crying. And then she put the wig back on her. She felt like she was beautiful again. And it started from a very young age, you know, to a very, it bothers me as a black man myself, seeing that, and you only feel beautiful, not in your natural look, you know, and I'm seeing it even now to this day. So many people don't love themselves. But from sitting with you, I can clearly see you love who you are because you found who you are.
And it took a while to get there. I didn't start off like that.
It does. But you were willing to take on a journey.
Yeah.
And that could be intimidating and scarce. A lot of people are scared because now you're going down a rabbit hole. You don't know what you're going to find. It could be anything, right? I give you flowers for even doing that. And then coming out so positive and forgiving and loving your dad and meeting your family. Right? That's a great story. Great story. Wow. Yes.
Yes. So, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm asking. So when you went to Sierra Leone, of course, you meeting your dad for the first time, right?
Right.
We gotta ask, how was that? I know that can be a regular, hey baby, come give me a hug. I know it's not that, right?
Right.
So how did that go?
So my family got in touch with my birth father, and they got a message from village to village because very few people had cell phones.
Okay.
In 2003 in Sierra Leone.
Wow.
After the war, it was a privilege to have a phone at that time.
Yes.
And after they got the message, he called, and the first thing he said to me is, he said, "Sarah, please forgive me."
Wow.
I
So
did
he
not.
owned it.
Yeah.
Accountability.
I didn't know how to find you after you'd been placed in adoption. Your name had changed.
Yes.
Everything had changed.
Yes.
And I said, "No, I need to ask you to please forgive me."
Wow.
I said, "Because I've been making you wrong my entire life just to protect myself, and I'm not going to do that anymore."
Wow.
And he said, "Okay." He said, "I want you to know that your birth mother and I loved each other. We wanted to give you to a family who could give you what you need. I didn't know she was pregnant." And he told me the whole story. And I said, "Listen, if there's a day that goes by that you feel guilty, please don't. You gave me one of the best families in the world. And now I'm going to get to meet you too. So how do we do this?" And and he said, "It's hard for me to get a visa right now to come to the United States. Could you come here?" I said, "I would love to." So I flew to Maryland, met all these African family members who lived there. Hello. And we planned a trip for 6 months later to go to Sierra Leone.
Yes.
And it was so special, but it had to come from, at first I was so angry. Well, you didn't want me, or what was wrong with me? And then I realized that you gave me, here's the thing.
Yes.
A third grader asked me the most profound question.
What was that?
He said, "What would your life look like if you weren't adopted?" And I went, "I've been interviewed by CNN, Good Morning America, TF1 in France. No one has ever asked." And I had never thought about that.
I'm asking it today, guys. So So what would your life look like if you weren't adopted?
What I realized, now you said it in a version that would be perfect for this third grade boy,
Yes.
but just to share with everyone here, my birth mother passed away of cancer when I would have been 11. And I would have been without my mother.
Yes.
And her mother passed away when she was 4. So being placed in adoption broke the chain of losing a mother, growing up without a mother. My father went back to Sierra Leone, my birth father, and went through an 11-year civil blood diamond war.
Yes.
That went on from 1991 to 2002. And most girls my age were raped and killed.
Yes, they were.
So there are a lot of different ways this could have gone. So for me to be, now I didn't think about it at that moment. I had already done this whole forgiveness. And then what's to forgive? He gave me this amazing family, and it's not easy. And I have a letter from my birth mother that she wrote to, and I might cry, but I'll try to keep it together, to the social worker. And she wrote, placing a child in adoption is one of the hardest things in the world to do. And I hope, my birth name was Esther Elizabeth.
Wow.
And I hope Esther,
strong name.
Well,
biblical name.
Biblical name, who went back to help her people.
Yeah, she did.
Just so interesting.
When you said it, I was like, whoa. It's like this whole story is like this.
What's
it's coming all full circle.
And Sarah means princess in Hebrew.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
There's a lot of things. But
wow.
She said, I do hope that she understands that placing her adoption was one of the hardest things in the world today to do. And I hope to meet her someday in heaven.
Wow.
So that moment was, I think sometimes we don't realize as people who've been adopted, the selflessness to do that.
Yes.
And sometimes people try so hard and they can't. And we tend to go, well, what's wrong with me? Did I do something wrong?
Yes.
Or I'm not enough. And it's like, actually, when you look at the circumstances, thank goodness we were adopted.
And to me, I'm going to be honest, I think that's what made her really a good mother.
Yes, exactly.
You know? And I think that's an amazing story to be able to say, I can't do this right now, but I want to make sure someone can.
Yeah.
And that's the selflessness. Yeah. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
That letter, I know you probably hold on to that letter for dear life.
Oh, yeah. It's very special.
Wow.
Very special.
Yeah, I want to cry. That's crazy. Whoa.